Erik has a really great TED Talk, and we're going to do like a short little watch party, basically, because that's going to help us set the tone for the conversation, and then really jump into question and answer, because in my brief time sort of getting to know the food bank over the last, call it several months or half a year or so, really, really surprising. I think almost this invisible problem maybe to most of us in our day-to-day lives, but yet these great folks live that every day, and really want to bring more awareness and visibility to the challenges in the community, the opportunities, and how the food bank's playing a very important role at the center of all that. So,
Right, sounds good.
Sound good? Okay. So Alicia, can you help us, or Lauren, I guess, play the video, please?
Sometimes in life, you throw something away that's really important. At the time, it may seem small or insignificant, or you just don't know what to do with it. It's only later on that you realize just how truly important it was. This was something that I discovered one day when I was walking the streets of an isolated town in northern Santa Barbara County. So the year is 2008. It's the height of the Great Recession. I turn a corner and I see a line of people baking in the California sun. Me, I'm on day 3 of my new job as CEO of the food bank. Got my new badge. I'm feeling good. I'm going to feed the world, and the world is going to be grateful. So my first move is to check out one of our food distributions. And so I follow this line that snakes its way to a weather-beaten church. And the scene inside is one of mild chaos as food bank employees scurry back and forth in a dislocated dance, trying to fill 2 bags of food for each family, one of cans and dry goods and the other of fresh produce. Now, most people seem grateful to receive the food, while others frankly emit a low-level anger at being kept waiting so long in the hot sun. Suddenly I'm thinking, the badge is not such a good idea. CEO, Chief Excuses Officer? So people collect their food and they exit out the side of the church. And so I follow behind, and I see this guy surreptitiously slip something into the big dumpster on the side of the yard. Now, I've seen a lot of movies, and when something like this happens, it can only mean one thing: a big bag of cash. And the food bank could use that cash. So like many movie heroes before me, I make the fateful decision to take a look. I raise the lid, and what I see amazes me. And like many movie heroes before me, my life changes forever at that moment. Sure, there's a bag, all right, but it's not a bag of money. It's one of the food bank's produce bags, stuffed full of fresh vegetables. What? I open up the other lid of the dumpster, and there's half a dozen identical bags, each brimming with fresh cauliflower and squash. I don't get it. These folks are the working poor. They need healthy food more than just about anyone. And it's not a cultural issue. These produce items are acceptable across all the cultures that we serve here. And yet, people are throwing away the good stuff and holding on to the cans of Franks and beans with added salt, the peaches in heavy syrup. You know, later on I actually saw somebody trade a perfectly good head of cauliflower for a packet of ramen noodles. Truly the Walking Dead of nutritional foodstuffs. It was like a punch to the stomach. I had to find out why people would throw away perfectly good food, the best food. Well, the most profound answer that I have come across in the 11 years since that day is this: just giving people more food does not end hunger. It sounds counterintuitive, right? We should just be able to throw more food at this problem and make it go away. And that's exactly what food banks like mine have been doing for decades now. And yet the numbers of hungry and food insecure people remain stubbornly high. So what I discovered that day when I lifted the lid on my dumpster of destiny was not just a waste of food. It was a classic case of food illiteracy. What? Wait, What's that? Well, we're all familiar with reading literacy and with numeracy. If you don't have those skills, you go through life with one hand tied behind your back. You can't read the fine print on your car loan. You can't question the inaccurate calculation on your paycheck. Food literacy is just as vital. Without a basic level of food literacy, our health suffers day after day after day. Our bodies may throw diabetes, cancer, heart problems, and obesity at us just to get our attention. So maybe everyone here learned food literacy as a child, around your dining room table, in your kitchen. We were all the brave volunteers, right? We were forced to taste test whatever miracles or messes our parents concocted for us. Maybe you even made the ultimate sacrifice and helped out. But many kids don't have that opportunity. I spoke to a boy in one of our programs, and he told me that besides holidays, he never sees his parents at dinner time. They're always working. I asked a girl, "Tell me about your kitchen." She said, "My kitchen is a microwave oven in the hallway by our front door. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't." And another, that his dining room table was his lap in their minivan in the drive-through lane of the fast food restaurant. Suddenly, that bag of produce with its big hard head of cauliflower and these ridiculously oversized squash are not looking so useful given the reality of people's dinner plans. So I hope that you're beginning to understand that hunger is complicated. Hunger is hard because being poor is hard. So how would I know, Mr. Guy in his flashy hat and the pinstripe jacket? Well, I know in a small way because for 1 month every 2 years, I live on food stamp money to just try and find out what it's like. So I get $6.46 a day for 30 days. And during these periods, I've done things such as sleep in my car, cook with struggling families, eaten in homeless shelters, and planted home gardens alongside struggling seniors, all to understand in some very small way what it's like to face these challenges every day, and maybe how to find some solutions. Now, full disclosure time, I live in Santa Barbara. It's known as the American Riviera, TM. That's right, I live in a registered trademark. There is incredible wealth here, yet also an astounding amount of hidden hunger. It lurks in apartment buildings, in student dorms, and in classrooms where kids can only focus on what is not in their stomach. So when I bring my 8-year-old daughter Mia to the Kids World playground downtown, an incredible 1 in 4 of those laughing, chasing children is living in poverty. Not money's tight, but bone-crunching, quicksanding poverty. Across America tonight, 1 in 8 people will open up the cupboard doors to see what's there for dinner, and there's nothing. So this situation comes about because people are working this crazy quilt of multiple jobs and income streams just trying to get by. They spend all their money on rent, on utilities, on prescriptions, and the cost of endlessly repairing these Frankenstein cars that need more and more new pieces bolted into them to bring them back from the dead. In this situation, healthy food is the first and often the only thing that can be cut from the family budget. So if I don't have much money, I buy poor quality food. If I eat bad food long enough, it makes me less healthy. I'm less able to work, and so I earn less money, and so I buy even poorer quality food. It becomes a vicious downward spiral. That spiral is not just theirs, it's all of ours. The price of poor nutritional health in America is astronomical. It's over $1 trillion a year. And yet the simplest and cheapest way of keeping people healthy is through what they eat. It's crazy, right? So let's just keep throwing more food at the problem. But like I said, just giving people more food does not end hunger. We need to equip people with the skills to take that food and make their families healthy with it. Now, food literacy is not a magic recipe to end to solve poverty, but it is a powerful answer to some of the attendant health problems and a vehicle for empowerment and transformation. So to live in poverty is to live in what has been called the tyranny of the moment. We're so overwhelmed with all of the problems that we're facing right now that we don't have the mental space to plan for the future. Food literacy is a key tool to smash this tyranny. So if I have basic food literacy skills and just a few dollars in my pocket, I stand a much better chance of being healthy that month. It's really important for them to do that. So I've been very inspired by what people have done with food literacy. Across America in the 1960s, there was an incredible campaign to try and boost reading literacy. And teachers stepped forward to teach, and the lives of those teachers and the people that they taught were changed forever. Today, I would like to invite everyone here to join me in a new campaign, this time for food literacy. Let's help people be as healthy as they possibly can be. So in Santa Barbara, we're already doing things. Our food bank runs national award-winning food literacy programs such as FLIP, Food Literacy in Preschool, and TLC, Teens Love Cooking, where we get real teenagers, we give them real knives, and we step back in amazement and for our own safety, as over a period of weeks, they turn into real cooks and prepare an incredible graduation fiesta meal for their parents. We're also piloting a new high school food creativity lab that allows teens to have insane amounts of fun with cooking and eating together. So maybe, just maybe, it's time to rescue that poor, benighted bag of produce from the dumpster. Come on, it's okay. You can come out, it's okay. We could take that cauliflower and make popcorn cauliflower with chili and lime. We could take the squash and make taco-stuffed squash boats. Kids can be mini Godzillas lifting up their vessels and munching them mercilessly. But it's not just down to kids, there's things that we can all do. So you don't have to go out and sign up for anything. You can start with food literacy in your own home, in your own kitchen. You could teach your own kids, your own grandkids, how to be food literate. It's fun, and it's a lifelong gift. And so I really encourage everyone here to consider food literacy as a way of helping everyone in America be much healthier than they are. We can help people be healthier. One food literate generation can beget another. Isn't that a powerful gift to give our society? But to do so, we need to equip people with those basic food literacy skills, the ability to budget and plan for meals, to shop smart, to cook in a quick and healthy fashion, and then crucially, to make use of leftovers. It sounds mundane, but it's absolutely vital, just like basic reading literacy and numeracy. So I welcome and I thank you all. Thank you.
For us, we cared about protecting fruits and vegetables because of their health benefits and qualities. Everyone should be eating more, but the lessons that in the perspective you shared in that talk, and we'll talk a little bit more today, I think is really important to help understand that the bridge isn't so easily built. But first of all, tell us a little bit more just about the food bank's work, its scope and its reach. We didn't really have a chance to hear, the core of your operations really. And the community served, because I think a lot of folks would find it actually tremendously shocking in an unfortunate way.
Well, I'll try and be shocking. So the food bank operates throughout the whole of Santa Barbara County. So we have a huge warehouse up in Santa Maria, which was our kind of hub for many years. And we finally opened a new warehouse here in the South County, just across the road there, just on Foremoor Drive. So I encourage everyone to come and check it out. We have our warehouse and we have our education center. So the food bank is literally like a bank, but for food instead of money. So people who want to donate food, they park their food there. People who need food come to the programs that both the food bank and its member agencies run across the county. So we're super proud that we're in every community in this county, Guadalupe, Nukiama, every place we touch. And so our focus is on getting food out, but then also education as well, as it's suggesting there. I mean, since that program, we have a bunch of new educational programs that we're really excited about as well. So we distribute currently around 11 million pounds of food per year around the county. Over half of that is fresh produce. So, Apeel and the food bank are in the longevity business for produce. So for us, the skill is getting that produce in. So we are members of a program called Farm to Family, where all of the food banks across California join together. We hire produce solicitors who go out to the fields. They buy the seconds. So in California, the seconds are more beautiful than anywhere else. So we have, amazing produce that we're able to buy for pennies on the dollar. They're shipped back in refrigerated trucks to the different food banks. And then the skill is getting that food out as quickly as possible. So we have amazing cooler freezers that allow us to store that food. And then agencies come with their vehicles and pick that food up. And we also run our own programs. So, any agency that you've heard across Santa Barbara County, from Unity Shop to the Rescue Mission to Good Sam's, all these people are coming and getting their food from the food bank. So where do we get our food from? Well, we're lucky to be in Santa Barbara County. This county is in the top 1% of agricultural producing counties in America. So that's what we've got. So, food literacy isn't just a question of kind of being righteous and teaching the kids. It's just realistic. This is the food that we have here. So we have to give people the skills to be able to use that food and then convince them to actually want to use that food. So that's why those two have to go hand in hand. So, if you're in the Montana Food Bank, things on the produce side are kind of quiet for a part of the year. And so, where it really behooves us to make sure that we have top flight education in that area. So, we get that food out there. We buy a lot of food, usually over $1 million of food a year. This year, as we'll discuss in a little bit, we're going to be buying much more than that. But it allows us to make sure that we have a good selection of culturally appropriate food that people actually want to eat, not what the American grocery industry wants to get rid of that month. So back in the bad old days, food banks used to be dumping grounds for the experiments of the American food industry. So, when blue Coke bit the dust, suddenly food banks across America were inundated with blue Coke, which is an excellent cleaning agent for the warehouse floor, but not, apparently they do use Coca-Cola in India as fertilizer. So little known fact. But we made the decision over 10, 15 years ago to stop giving out either candy or soda and focusing purely on healthy food and fresh produce. And that has really made a huge difference. Before I worked at the food bank, I worked for one of our member agencies, a homeless shelter, and I saw the change in people's health during that period just by being able to have access to fresh produce. So that kind of made me an evangelist for this and wanted to get involved. So that's a long answer to tell you a little bit about what we're doing.
No, I think, again, it's a perspective that I think we all would have had such a small sliver of and maybe taken for advantage. There are 441,000 people in Santa Barbara County as of maybe 2023. You serve a tremendous proportion of them. Just maybe let folks know how many folks do you serve in Santa Barbara County per month?
So Laura, what's the latest figure?
We're over 200,000, pretty unduplicated. So it comes out to 1 in 3. Some of those may not be permanently residing, but yes, 1 in 3.
1 in 3.
Yeah.
1 in 3.
Yeah. So as Laurel says, that may be just some food at an after-school program occasionally for kids, or for an older adult, it may mean more long-term health.
But that's the difference between North County, South County.
Well, we serve much more in the North County than the South County. So we live in a kind of balanced county here in that, a lot of the need is in the North, but not, there's still incredible need here based around poverty connected to the service industries. But, and a lot of the fundraising comes from the South, but from the North comes a lot of produce and a lot of food. So it's kind of like a split. So I'm very glad that Santa Barbara County didn't split in half, which we was thinking of doing a few years ago.
Folks may not also realize the there's kind of like an emergency operations kind of aspect and disaster relief. Could you share a little bit more about that? I think that's
Sure.
really interesting for folks to know.
Yes, I mean, disasters seem to have become very popular and getting more and more popular each
Yeah.
year. And so, yeah, I mean, the food bank is there to feed everyone in times of crisis, not just those that are food insecure. So, you know, we face incidents such as you all have in terms of the Thomas Fire and the debris flow. We fed people during that. We tackled government shutdown. COVID was a kind of a huge thing. For us, we had to double the amount of food that we were putting out. We borrowed 2 extra warehouses. We had 50 National Guard members come. So it was an amazing effort. And, you know, the need has stayed about plus 50% of what it was before COVID as a result of inflation and other economic dislocation.
So pretty shocking. I know at least
Mhm.
for me, in hearing that some of the statistics for the first time, just really appreciate all the work that y'all do. Doing the work is probably made a little bit more challenging with regards to some impacts with federal funding. We could share a little bit with the community as to just what those impacts are, give us a little perspective, and ultimately, you know, what can members of the community do to help?
Yeah, so it is a very challenging situation for us. We're used to, if there is an emergency or there's a situation of higher need, that we could look to the government for more help. So we are now in a situation where there is higher need, and there will be significantly higher need when there's cuts to SNAP and Medicaid. We're actually getting less food from the government. So that is a world that we have not lived in before until today. So we have seen significant cuts to the food that we get that comes from the federal government through the USDA. And we're looking at a potential dollar value next year of about up to $5 million of food that will go away from this county. So that is a significant amount. And so we're having to look at what we can do in that situation. So one program that will be going away in July of this year is called the LFPA. You may have read about it in the newspapers. There was an article in the LA Times on April 8th where Governor Newsom was trying to fight back. Basically, the LFPA is a local food purchasing agreement. So it's a great thing. It allows money to flow from the federal government through the state and then to small aggregations of small local farmers that grow food, are paid to grow food for the food bank. So not only supports people in need, but it supports small farmers that are always in need as well. So that program was introduced under the last administration, which makes it a no-no for this administration. So it is being cut. So we're looking at trying to be proactive and saying, okay, we've got to try and replicate this program ourselves. You know, we don't have as much money as the federal government. We can't hit those levels, but we can, you know, make a significant impact. So we're looking at using the same model, bringing together groups of small local farmers and making sure that we're able to provide some support to them during this period.
Amazing. It's like kind of community, grassroots related.
Yeah.
It's like we
Yeah.
gotta solve it in our own backyard.
Yeah, and maybe that's the lesson that we're all learning out of this situation is that we need to, you know, look to our own resources and our own community, you know, focus. And we're lucky that we can do that in a place where we are growing significant food.
We wanted to spend more time to open it up actually to the floor for questions. Erik and I had sort of pre-gamed this and we said, well, we could talk at everyone for a while, but we wanted to get a sense of what folks in the audience may also be curious to know about. So we will open it up, I guess, formally for Q&A. And I want to make sure that there's time at the end so that if there's anything that we didn't cover, that you have a chance to share. Question from Matt Barrett. Yeah.
Hi, thanks for coming. You just touched on it briefly, but I guess could you provide more context of like where does the majority of your funding go? Is it through community fundraising or is it majority from either state and or federal government no longer? But I guess where does that break down?
Sure.
And we'll just repeat it for the folks online.
Yeah.
So it's kind of where does the majority of the funding to the food bank come from sort of proportionately is the question.
So the majority of our funds come from the local community. You know, hunger is perceived as a local problem. People want to help people in their area. So it is local donors, local foundations. We get a modest amount of money from the federal government, or we did, and we get a modest amount of money from both the state and the cities. but really quite small in comparison. Private fundraising is at least 70% of the fundraising that we do.
Dave G? Yeah.
You mentioned that you live on food stamps for a portion of the year. Really impressive. Yeah, that you get really close to your problem. Can you tell us a little bit about how that went? Were you able to eat healthy, or what kind of things did you experience? And did you start to use the food bank as well to augment?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I mean, I don't know how heroic it was because, you know, a month is a month. You know it's ending, right? Whereas if you're in a situation, you may not know when it's ending. Although I will say it's better than Gwyneth Paltrow, who did one day. And it was tough. It was tough for her. Yeah, I mean, what I found was that, you know, I blew through, because, you know, you don't get handed $6 a day, you get your monthly amount. So I diligently spent my monthly amount. You know, I went to Trader Joe's for certain things I could get cheaply there. I went to other places, you know, to get cheaper produce or things like that. So I tried to do all that, but, you know, typically by the end of week 2, you know, you're scratching around. So obviously I can't take food from the food bank, but what I did was the equivalent. I would go and buy myself the equivalent of what the food I could get from a distribution that I went to. And, you know, that really brought it home. That made all of the difference between being able to be healthy and survive and not.
And follow-up question, okay?
Yeah, just as long as I can repeat it backwards.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
And-
you go ahead.
And how did you cook your food? Because you mentioned some recipes and such, but if you have a broken microwave, that's all you're able to use. What was your solution there?
Right, so yeah, follow-on question is how do you cook the food then that you were able to purchase during this time, kind of simulating being on the food?
Well, you know, each time I did it in a different way. You know, one time I was, you know, went to the homeless shelter and ate there. And so, I mean, I didn't cook with a broken microwave. And my dream has always been to do a cookbook that's a in your car cookbook that, you know, you hook up to your cigarette lighter, although they don't have cigarette lighters either. But that you can hook up to your Bluetooth connection for your phone. That, you know, that you could cook something healthy in your car. So I haven't got around to it yet, but yeah, I mean, it is a challenge. And that's why, you know, we're always educating people who work with us in terms of, say, they want to help unhoused people. You know, giving a bag of food to an unhoused person is not great. They need certain things that are easy for them to eat. They need other things besides food, salt, etc., things like that. So, you know, each group that we work with has different needs. But yeah, I mean, getting the food is only half the challenge. As you all remember from your college days, you know, just on a simple way, the challenges of cooking in a situation where there's not that much.
Yeah, such a good example though, in whether in business or anything else, like walking literally in the shoes in the customer experience to understand what the true like needs and barriers are versus what we sort of like imagine them to be. Yeah. Yes, Dawn.
I know you guys have like lists of donation items that you kind of request, so we know you don't want those blue soda that we're not consuming anymore. But I'm just wondering, like as an individual, do you prefer like food donations or do you get more bang for your buck with cash donations?
Great question. Did I tell you that question before? No, I mean, because of our buying power, getting $1 enables us to do far, far more than somebody paying grocery store prices. You know, when you go to that grocery store and they say, oh, do you want a bag for hungry people? And basically they're charging, you know, their retail rates for that. So they're kind of doing better than the people who might get that food. So yeah, I mean, you want to give food that is, I mean, the number one rule is do not donate something you wouldn't eat yourself. And that, you know, that can be tough for people. They want to kind of get rid of something. Maybe it's near code or past code. Maybe it's some, you know, funky thing that they were given for Christmas that is a challenge. I mean, we get some like amazing kind of luxury items occasionally. But yeah, just simple, healthy food. Superfoods are preferred. But yeah, I mean, you know, that we're finding that is a smaller part of what we do now in terms of local food donation. It's kind of like a generational thing. The previous generation was all about the tactile thing of going to a bin at a grocery store or something and putting food in there. But just the economics of that and the value of that has gone down a lot. So really we have virtual food drives and things like that people get involved in much more. But, every day people come and they bring produce items, they bring other food. And so that all supplements the food that we have.
Yes, great. TK in the back. Yeah, and then Lauren.
Yeah, Eric, it's astonishing to hear 200,000 people in the county are being served by the food bank. Can you give us a sense of, what percentage of that is unhoused versus just individuals or families struggling with just the costs and inflation and everything else here?
Sure. Yeah. So you're asking about the kind of numbers of unhoused versus other types of people getting help. So, in reality, the number of unhoused people that we're serving is very small. It's really only about 5% of who we're serving. The huge majority of who we are serving are, what some people call the working poor. So they're people working a couple of jobs at least. They're trying to bring it all together. They maybe have big medical bills 1 month, or they have to fix their van. They got no money for food. So people are going in and out of food insecurity. And that's one reason why that number is so high. From our perspective, strategically, it gives us the opportunity to connect with a lot of people. So if we can change people's food literacy, with that many people, and those are the people typically who need the most, help and encouragement and education, then that, could be a big contribution to the health of this county.
Great question. Thank you. Lauren.
Hi, I have a question from the chat, and this is from Erik Stark. If you volunteer, are you also allowed to receive a food bank box? Also, what are the income limits to receive help?
Okay, so those are great practical questions. So we're not in the income business. Some food that we give out from the USDA, if there's still any of it left next week, you have to just self-certify that you sign a piece of paper saying that you need that food. There are a few of our agencies that do a kind of a means testing thing, but most of them do not. So our understanding is that if you're prepared to stand in the hot sun for a while to get some food, you need that food. You're not there for your own amusement. And so that is a significant element.
Cool. Yes, please.
When you're talking about food literacy, where are you finding the most gaps? Is it in how to purchase the correct food to plan out meals that maybe can last longer or stretch longer? Or is it in the prep of the meals or in the storage of the food?
It's kind of universally across all of those areas. If you can't do one of them, then you're kind of stuck. So, we all experience going to buy stuff and we see, oh, that looks great. I'll get this shiny thing. And then you've blown like a lot of your money. So that is probably the first problem, but also it's the planning. None of us has got it together, right? Or maybe some of you do, to plan, your whole meals for the week, and you've got different days on your little boxes in the fridge. It's hard, but you can do a little bit of that, and it makes a big difference. And also, families purchasing food in bulk together is something that people can do as well. So there's lots of opportunities. And I didn't kind of fully answer that last question in terms of the volunteer side, but we do have volunteers come and do a whole range of activities. So some of them actually teach our educational programs. It's like kind of once or twice a month, and maybe in an after-school situation where they're doing the Teens Love Cooking or another program. We have people come and sort produce. A key job that we really need more and more of is people delivering food, so meals to homebound older adults and the like. So there's a whole range of opportunities. We also allow people to kind of use their own individual skills. If the food bank needs help with a particular project or something, then we look for people in the community who have those skills. So, we're talking about building a kitchen in the North County to make frozen meals for older adults. So currently I'm looking for somebody who can work with me on a business plan for the sustainability of that kitchen. So we're always kind of out in the community looking to work with people.
Right. And I think related a little bit to that question, I'll come back to you, Tricia. It's like, it sounds like if you're in need, you're in need. you don't have to volunteer in order
Yeah.
to.
And you can't,
for the
yeah,
exchange,
and actually that
right?
is a good
Yeah.
point. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you can do both, but you can't do both at the same time. So it's not like you're working for food type thing. So we disconnect those two things. If you need food and you want to volunteer, that's great, but there's no connection. There's no expectation of work for food.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Trisha?
I have a great time question from one from the chat. What are some practical steps that individuals can take to help improve food literacy and combat food insecurity and hunger in their own homes and local communities?
Well, everything does start at home in terms of educating children around just being able to open a refrigerator and not say, there's nothing in there, there's no food, whereas they have this fully stocked refrigerator. So just giving people those kind of skills. How can we transfer it from the video screen of Cooking Mama or whatever, and it's so much fun to chop up things and put them in the pot. Could we do that in real life? So yeah, I mean, I certainly with my family just, try to cook together. And then I was also inspired by wanting to reach out to children. So I did write a series of children's books. First one was Lulu and the Hunger Monster, that looked at a food insecure child, and she was food insecure that month because her mom's van broke down. So that looked at food insecurity in the classroom and how kids can deal with it in a sensitive way. But there were also two follow-up books, one which looked at this very issue of how do we get kids to cook together at home, and then another one about the food system itself. So the more we can get kids talking about this subject and getting them involved in practical hands-on education is the way to solve that problem.
Catalina? Yeah.
I'm curious if you could speak to other local partnerships that Food Bank does, such as the universities in the area, local grocery stores, if you're receiving a surplus of their inventory. I was a UCSB student myself. I saw how much food was ending up in the trash from the dining commons. So if there's any kind of work being done there.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. In all those areas, things are happening. Food is coming from all over. I mean, and so you mentioned the university, there have been one of our biggest agencies in the past in terms of food. And, that is a challenge for people really understanding that food insecurity in colleges is way different than when you were at college. And, I had to eat tuna fish and, I had it hard and it taught me to be who I am. These days with crippling college fees and with, trying to look after other family members and stuff, the amount of real hard food insecurity in colleges is enormous. But we also have a range of partners across the county, working with, obviously our 200 plus member agencies. We work with people like the Santa Barbara Food Action Network that we help to start. We work with the counties and the cities as well. So, we have to partner with people to get things to scale. And that's partially why our educational programs are run by volunteers, that we can scale them up more successfully across the county. So yeah, partnership is all for us. And also we're members of the Feeding America network of food banks, which is a national network of 200 food banks that cover the whole of the United States. So we source food together, we train together, we fundraise together, and that gives us a lot of kind of strength and advocate together as well.
Great. Yeah. TK?
Yeah, you're following. When you look at the Santa Barbara food bank and how we're set up in the model, are there other food banks around the country that you aspire to transition to that might better, bigger, improve programs, or are we sort of cutting edge and
they aspire to be us, yes, when they grow up. Yeah, I mean, we made a conscious change to really focus on education and saying that the education is just as important as the food. And some food banks don't have that thought. They're just focused about pounds out the door. Some are in situations where they feel they can't do anything more than that. I mean, there are food banks out there that are 75% reliant on USDA food from the government. So if that does get cut drastically, then they're gone, basically. Yeah. So food is really a big focus of ours at the moment. We're not putting aside our education. We're working just as hard on that, but it really is a kind of a back to basics and how do we build our sustainability locally.
Great. Yes, Luis.
Yeah, quick question, Director, do you run into waste problems within your system, whether it's with the system or even when it goes on with perishable goods?
So our model is all about how do we lessen that? So actually, we've just taken delivery of 2 huge composters, one for the North County, one for the South County. Stuff, produce that is finished goes into that. But our game is about getting things out as quickly as possible, turning it and keeping it in our giant cooler freezers. So one of our big focus areas is shrinking each year the amount of wastage. They call it SPIG pounds in our business. So yeah, that is a big focus of ours, because food banks originally started because of trying to cut down on food waste, and also because the government at that point had a lot of food that they wanted to give away as a result of subsidies to farmers, which we're still trying to keep going with the farm bill, but a new farm bill has not been passed in a number of years now, because of kind of arguments about what is in it.
On a related question, I guess, is there a sense of whether or not there's a challenge with regards to then using up produce and time at home? So understanding that the food bank itself is one node, has the efficiency and the sort of the turnover and the movement of the inventory so that it's not sitting there. Is there a sense of whether or not folks have enough time, I guess, at home to use?
I mean, sometimes that is a problem. If you have a lot of produce, we encourage people to store it in a way that makes sense for that particular produce item. But yeah, that always is a challenge. But one of the earlier questions was about partnerships and about local grocery stores. And we do have a whole grocery network of truck that rescue network that goes to all the stores and picks up. Luckily, American consumers are, they want to get rid of it before the sell by date, and that gives us a large chunk of time before the use by date. So I think it's fair to say that food banks live and die in that space between sell by and use by. But as the grocery distribution network gets more and more effective, the amount of food that is kind of wasted food that we get shrinks, year in, year out. So that's another reason why we have to really focus on local sustainability.
Great. Denise and then Matt, and you folks let us know if there's anyone else online that we don't want to leave them out. Sorry, Denise?
And my question's to kind of build on that a little bit, but have you seen policy in this area start to evolve and change at all? And the reason I bring up the question is really around waste. So like we've actually had communication and contact with USDA talking about, hey, because they do the buy program, the nutrition program and so forth, yet we know that within that system, there is an issue of one, not being able to fully manage those perishable products due to labor and so forth. And so our initial conversation with them was around, hey, we'd like to be a solution to this. But during that conversation, I noticed that it was very traditional in behavior of this is the way it's set up, this is the way we're moving. But I was wondering from your point of view, have you just seen discussions around policy or advancements changing within that infrastructure?
Sure. I mean, those policies are primarily coming from the state level. So there was, SB, whatever it was, 4, 5, 6, 7, which was focused on, putting a financial burden, penalty on both restaurants and other businesses that did not do something with their food waste. And, I have to say that the response to that has not been super huge and wonderful, because the enforcement is not there. So people are kind of not doing that much. I mean, someone did touch earlier on kind of wasted food from like restaurants or dining commons. I mean, we tend to steer that directly to a member agency. We don't have the capacity to, dig through that. So yeah, our focus is on the kind of, fresh goods and dry goods.
Thank you. Back to, yes, Nick.
Super specific about, I guess, local partnerships with grocery stores. We're all at the checkout counter and it pops up and it says, do you want to end hunger for $1? Makes you say yes or no. Is that linked to like the food bank locally? Is that Do you know if that dollar goes to you, or is that just something bonds as?
Well, I mean, sometimes it does. I mean, I look at that question every day.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to I gave it the office, but do I have to give here? But I mean, I haven't seen money recently. Are you aware of money locally recently?
No.
So we're not getting that money, but I mean, other organizations may be getting it.
Oh, thank you.
Great. How are we doing also in the chat room?
No new ones yet.
Okay.
I've got one to keep it
Yeah,
going.
please.
So I really love that you dove into your understanding your customer's experience and, that you do this pretty regularly. Can you tell us a bit about how each of these immersions informs or what changes the improvements you might make? Is this something that other members of your staff or other food banks have instilled as part of their culture?
Yeah, I mean, more and more. I just came from the National Conference of Feeding America in Atlanta last week, and what they call the neighbor experience. So we talk about neighbors, not clients. And that is kind of front and center. And how do we make sure we're giving people the food they want? B, that's in an environment that they feel comfortable being in, and then C, how can we move things along to encourage people to advocate for getting out of that situation. So yeah, that is a very important part of things for us.
I kind of, it goes back a little bit, but you just triggered thought here. It's like the diversity of the folks of the neighbors who draw from the food bank services is quite it is just very diverse. I think maybe paint a picture for us, I guess, of the neighbors that are drawing from their services, just to help folks kind of understand. And I think honestly, break a little bit of maybe a stigma potentially around, leaning on the services when you need them.
Yeah. I mean, this Lulu book touches on the stigma because stigma is times 10 for children as compared to adults. And when I first got to the food bank, everybody knew that the poor kids went to a particular room in the school and got a bag of food, and it was really problematic. So that stigma does exist because if you've had cancer and you beat cancer, you want to tell everyone about it, right? But if you're food insecure, your family, and you beat that, that's not necessarily the story that you want to shout from the mountaintops. So there is that invisible hunger and reluctance to talk about it. That is a really key feature of everything. So I think there's also been a shift since COVID. So, it used to be that people who were donors, had little conception of what it was like to be food insecure. And the degrees of separation between those people and people who were food insecure changed dramatically during COVID. Everybody suddenly knew somebody who lost their job or was had much less income. Whole different types of people were then accessing food banks. So I think that's changed that argument a lot. So that's one positive thing that came out of COVID, I think. But the problem is that we can't have the whole country depending on the emergency food network.
Right.
We need to get people stable around the food that they're getting themselves. That's why government grants and money like SNAP, which is food stamps, or the child tax credit are the way to solve these problems, not by putting a ton of food in a warehouse. Yes, there'll always be extra food that a food bank can serve, but during COVID, when the child tax credit was given out, childhood poverty, dropped by 20%. It's back up again now because that's stopped, but those are the levers that need to be pulled to make real change.
Yes, Phil.
On the topic of food illiteracy, there's so much kind of noise about what's healthy to eat nowadays and the traditional kind of food pyramid. How are you guys tackling that? What has there been an update since that? Do we still use the same?
Yeah, I mean, things have changed a lot. Our educational curriculum has changed a lot. Basically the message that goes out in our new programs is that, there is no bad food. We're not going to shame you to do with what you're eating, what your body type is, anything to do like that. What we're looking at is how do you add things? How do you supplement your diet? How do you take your ramen, put fresh vegetables in it? How do you do other things? So, and also just things like mindful eating and understanding about the food system. So just trying to change people's attitude towards food, but still getting people involved in a tactile sense of cooking with food is the best thing. Because once you get doing that, then, if you have that skill for life, then you're going to be way healthier.
Teach them how to fish.
Yeah, get them young. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions right now? Sure.
There used to be a program, maybe perhaps it's still ongoing, where folks in the community were able to contribute from their own yards. I think it was called Backyard Bounty. And it was for folks with things like citrus trees or fruit trees or other garden items. Is that still going on? And could you tell us more about it?
Sure, very much so. Yeah. So yeah, Backyard Bounty is still going on. So it's an opportunity for people to, donate that food that just is falling on the ground, and we all see it when we drive past houses that have that. If you just have a couple of trees, then we encourage you to bring the food into the food bank, or if you're not able to do it, to get some help from somebody who could do that. And then we tend to focus on, orchards or places that have larger concentrations of trees. And there are some considerable ones in Goleta. There's like a giant kind of place that has tons and tons of mandarin trees. And so we've been picking those for years. And so it is an important supplement, especially in the winter and January, where other types of produce are a little harder to get, even in California. But yeah, it's a great program. It's something that people can volunteer. It's a great, good for whatever ails you to go out and pick fruit from a tree. All your problems, the tyranny of the moment slips away for a little while. So that's definitely a fun thing for people to volunteer with, or as a group. Apeel could come.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah, we should keep doing it. Yeah, that's for sure. Would love for you to have a chance, you and your team, maybe some final thoughts, anything that we didn't have a chance to touch on that you feel is really important that you'd love the audience to.
Well, thank you, Jenny. I think the main thing is that, we are your neighbors. We're sitting in a concrete block house like you, just like 2 streets down. So we really encourage you to come and visit us as a group or singly. If you are interested in volunteering, on our website is all the information about doing that. If you want to support us in some way, like a monthly gift or something like that, that's another opportunity. But just get connected with us. We are your local food bank. We, all have the same mission of building a resilient, healthy community. So that's really important.
Super.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for your time. I feel like we can see it on folks' faces, a bit of stunned, means surprised, and also then grateful for your
burritos, I think.
the spicy dip in the burritos. Thanks also, we're getting some hearts and claps and stuff online from our folks dialing in remotely as well. Thank you so much.
Great.